Hey, New Life, it's Jeff. I think most of you know me. I've been down there a few times, spoke at the church, but for those of you who don't, hey, I'm Jeff. I am a random Army guy, been in the Army for 25 years. 5 of those years have been spent in a combat zone. Most of the rest of the 20 years have been spent either preparing for the combat zone or coming back from the combat zone. So, but I am a passionate lover of Jesus, and I love helping other people learn how to fall passionately in love with Jesus. So I wanted to bring you guys a little devotional. Nothing fancy. I'm just down here in my little jungle cave. Yes, I decorated my office as a jungle because, hey, why not? It's awesome, right? Who doesn't want to live in a jungle? So, yeah, since I've spent so much time of my life in the military, the devotional series that I want to bring you guys, I'm calling the Warrior series because that's also really cool. It sounds cool. But the devotional series that I wanted to bring you is broken up into 3 parts. The first one is knowing your enemy. The second part is knowing yourself. And the third part is knowing your mission. So, with no further ado, let me start with the first devotional, knowing your enemy. When I first went to Iraq, we landed, and anybody who gets to Iraq, when you first step foot on the ground, like your adrenaline is pumping and like you are just expecting firefights like the moment you step off. And so your head is on a swivel and you are looking all around and like you are ready for a fight. And then no fight comes. And a little bit of time goes by, and you went from thinking the enemy is behind every tree to thinking the enemy is behind no tree. Because the longer you go without a fight, you start to become complacent and you start to kind of wonder, like, is the enemy even here? Like, yes, I know the enemy is in Iraq, and yes, there are numbers of fatalities that are reported every day that remind me, yes, the enemy is here. But in a weird way, like, your mind starts to think, yeah, the enemy's in the country, but the enemy is not here. The enemy's not looking at me. Well, the thing that we have to fight the most as leaders in the military, in a war zone, is complacency. We have a saying, complacency kills, and everybody knows it, and we repeat it over and over and over. Because when you start to forget that the enemy is even around you, and you start to get complacent, you guys, I can't tell you how many stories I have of complacent soldiers who were killed or injured because the enemy walked right up to them. They didn't do anything about it, right? But here's the odd thing, is like once complacency sets in and something bad happens, more times than not, what I've seen is the response then becomes dissension within the ranks. Rather than arguing and fighting about the enemy, we argue and fight with each other, and we put blame on each other. So we had a horrible incident that happened in Iraq. We lost quite a few of our guys. 3 of them were taken and abducted. We didn't know where they were at for a while. We had huge search parties going on. What I remember is when that happened, people started to argue and point blame at the leadership, the military leadership. People were arguing with each other. People were about to be fired. But oddly enough, I heard very little about people being upset with the enemy, the one who actually did the attack. Nobody really brought that up at all. So we forgot who the enemy was. We took our eyes off of the enemy. Now, let me read you Ephesians 6:10-12. It says, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. You guys, the Lord has given us in Scripture ways that we can stand firm against the evil one, that we can remember who we're fighting against and stand against them. You know, one thing stands out to me in Iraq, in my time in Iraq, that when people start to get complacent, they start to do things that they wouldn't necessarily do if they knew the enemy was standing right over there watching them, right? They start to cut corners, they start to just do things that are careless and reckless, given the fact that there is an enemy who seeks to kill and destroy them. We see the same thing spiritually. We start to do things, we start to cut corners, we start to ethically, morally do things that we might not necessarily do if we knew the evil one was right there tempting us. So I've got one more story for you of just keeping our focus on the enemy and the importance of keeping our focus on the enemy. As some of you know, the last time I was down there, I talked about my little hobby of herpetology and keeping snakes. If you remember, that was one of the bonding elements that Stan and I have. I don't know if you guys knew this as well, but Stan also really loves snakes. He really appreciated the text messages that some of you guys sent to him the last time I talked. He just likes to receive pictures of snakes. So if you get the chance, feel free to text him some pictures of snakes. But a few years ago, well, more than a few years, it was a little while ago, Beth and I, we didn't have a lot of money. I was a young ranking officer in the military. And so to make a little bit of money on the side, I tried to monetize my hobby. And so I would acquire some snakes at a lesser value and then turn around and sell them for a little bit of a profit. And the Lord had been blessing that little endeavor that I was doing. And so I was gifted a, 15 to 18 foot reticulated python. Huge snake, right? And it was given to me for like next to nothing. And this came at a time where we really needed some money. And so I put this snake for sale, and lo and behold, within a week, I resold this thing for $1,000 profit. And I was just ecstatic. And I'm like, oh my goodness, the Lord is there. The Lord answers. Even through something as dumb as a snake, God will answer. God takes care of us. So I received the money. I boxed this thing up and I put it in the mail. Yes, you can do that. It is not illegal to send reptiles through the mail. Yes, you can put a snake in a box as well. Crazy, I know. But I shoot this thing off. Send it overnight through the mail. Now, the next day, the snake is supposed to be there, and the guy on the receiving end calls me to say, hey, where's my snake? Like, I send you all this money, but where's my snake? And I'm thinking, I don't know. Hey, maybe, it's delayed. Next day comes, still no snake. I'm starting to worry, like, this is 2 days. Fast forward, like, we're at 30 days. This guy's like, he's furious. I want my money back. Where's my snake? You're a crook. Like, all this stuff is going on. And now I'm starting to really stress out because I'm like, I spent that money. Like, we needed it, right? It went to bills. And so, but now this guy's saying, I want my money back. And I'm starting to question God. Hey, God, you did this. I thought you did this. But it really feels like an okie doke. Like, hey, you helped me out, but now it's just gone. Like, I'm hurting worse than I was before, God. Like, with friends like this, who needs enemies, right? Like, God, it would have been better if you just didn't do anything for me, because now I'm actually in the hole. Like, this is horrible. Time goes on even more. We're at 45 days, and the snake is just gone. Like, an 18-foot snake is just gone. Now, I'm at work and I'm beyond stressed because this is really weighing on me. And this has been developing in like my upsetness with God. And so at day 45, I came out of work and I was just furious with God. And finally, for the first time, I was truthful with God. And I just got into my Jeep and I was like, God, I am furious with you. How could you do this to me? I really feel betrayed by you, God. And I'm just having it out with God. And this is like a one direction conversation to God. And as I get done and I just unload, overwhelmingly, I just have this weird sense of God speaking to me. And as I look down at the odometer, as I'm starting my vehicle, the trip odometer was exactly at 66 miles and 6/10. So the only thing that I see just glaringly looking back at me was 666. And at that very moment, I heard God very clearly tell me, what you're experiencing is not from me. You have forgotten that there is an enemy who seeks to kill and destroy you. I just wept. I just broke down. And I realized what I had done. The enemy who was responsible, I took my eyes off and put the blame on God. And I said, oh my God, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. And I brought myself to the point of, no matter what happens, God, I know you love me. And I'm not going to question you. God put on my heart, I will take care of you, my son. This was a lesson. I drove home 15 minutes from work. As I get back home, I see a huge box on my front porch. It's all taped up in plastic and cellophane. It looks like it has just fallen apart. I know what it is. And it looks like a 15 to 18 foot snake was just decomposing and mushy inside this box. It was disgusting. I get home, I walk up to the porch, and my wife Beth and her mom open the door, and they're standing there and they say, look what came back. Don't open it. Dear Lord, don't open it. That will stink to heaven. Just take it out. Go take it to the garbage. Just get rid of it. Now, as a good husband, a good son-in-law, I know not to even question them at this point, because in reality, they're probably right. It's going to smell horrible, right? So I just pick this box up and I walk it out to the trash. And I watch over my shoulder, and as soon as they close the door and they go back in, I open the thing up. Now, as I open that box, out comes a little head with a little tongue, not little, it was big, but a little tongue flickering at me. This snake was still alive. It was still in there after 45 days in a box, lost in the mail. You guys, I was thrilled about that. But what I was more thrilled about was that I experienced my God in a new way. I understood my enemy is real. I understood my God is real. I understood prayer is real. And I understood that not a day goes by that we are not in a very real war and battle with an enemy who is very witty, who does not play by the rules, who will do anything possible to destroy us. You guys, I tell you that story because we each have different things going on. We have rough marriages, we have rough kids, we have rough relationships. Satan will use whatever he can. He wants to destroy you. We have to remember that we're in a war. So here's my action item for you guys. What I challenge you to do is to meditate on this for a while. Go to God, just be quiet. Let him speak to you about the reality of your enemy who seeks to destroy you. After you've taken a little bit of time and you've meditated a little bit, ask God this question, okay? What am I doing in my life right now that I would not do if I knew the enemy was right there watching me? Where am I cutting corners? Who am I arguing with? Who am I putting the blame on? You guys, God will speak. He will reveal some areas to you because He is on your side. He wants you to know that your enemy is prowling like a roaring lion. He wants to devour you, to kill you, to completely, utterly destroy everything that you've got. So, will you spend that time just meditating, reconnecting with the one who's on your team? I pray you do. All right, guys. So this has been the first devotional in the Warrior series. Up next is knowing yourself. All right. Thanks, guys.